Alright, this video is meant to help you understand how to find a linear regression on your calculator for a list of data points. Now, previously we found best fit lines, or basically if we're looking at the data that we have in the table, we would take the X list, we'd take the Y list, we'd make a scatter plot, and then we would draw our own line of what we think the best fit line would be, somewhere that you just kind of throw a line in there where it might predict our model well. But rather than just drawing any old linear model, today we would rather let the calculator do the work and come up with what's called a linear regression model. Okay? Or allowing the calculator, like I said, to do most of the work. So the first thing we want to do is realize that on our list our years are fairly large numbers, and we'd much rather kind of start near the y-axis or reposition those. So notice right above the data it says, let X equal the years since 1970. Or basically we're going to change our X list from 1970, calling that year 0, and then everything else is in 5-year increments going onwards. So again, 1975, 1980, 85 are now just 5 years, 10 years, 15 years after 1970. Once we have all that done, then what we're going to do is jump onto our calculator, and we are going to enter our data into a table. Alright, so I've opened up the calculator here, and basically I just went into, let me backtrack a little bit, second quit. I'm on my main screen, okay? I'm just on my main calculator screen. What I'm going to go is to stat. Right below delete, there's that stat button. Now you might think, well hey, I want to go to a list, I want to put in my stuff, so why don't I go to second stat, go to that list button. Realize if you press second stat, again it's taking you to a list of, or a menu to work with the lists, but it's not allowing you to actually enter the list. What we want to do is enter some statistics, enter some data. So I'm just going to press stat, and it should take you to a screen that looks like this. Edit is going to allow me to enter my list in, so I'm going to press enter. And then all I did was in L1, I entered in my list from the other screen. You'll notice the 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Got that entered in as list 1. And list 2, again, I've got entered in over here on list 2. Should be just 7 pieces of data. We should end at the same spot. If you're wondering if you get off your screen or anything, if you've got a longer list at any point, again, you can always scroll down at the bottom of the screen. It's telling me, hey, I'm on list 2. I'm in the 6th entry, so that's where I am highlighted right here. So that if you do end up a little bit lower down where you can't see everything, you'll know where you are. Alright, so take a second, pause the video, enter in that data. Again, I'll put them back up here for you. And once you're ready, continue with the video. Now that we have that data entered in, the next thing I'm going to do is go back to my main screen. I'm going to press second quit. And really, the short version of this is you just need to find a linear regression model. So you should be able to just press stat, go to calculate in the middle of the screen there, and you're going to find the 4th option down, linear regression. When I press 4 or hit enter, it's going to put that on the main screen. Now, if you have a different version of a TI-84 calculator, it may say a lot more. It may say X list and Y list and give you L1 and L2, and it's going to tell you frequency list and store regeq and all that stuff. Really, that doesn't matter that much. Just go down and hit calculate, just like I'm going to hit enter. And basically, it's going to give you your slope and your intercept here on the screen. Okay? Now, the one thing I would like it to give me is also the correlation coefficient. That's a great slope and an intercept, but I don't know how really good my line was. That correlation coefficient will tell me how close my data is to my line, or basically the closer my correlation is to 1, the better. And to do that, I'm going to go to second catalog, and I just need to turn this on one time. So I need to scroll down to diagnostics on. Now if I press D here, jump a little bit, and then if I click down just a little ways here, I should find diagnostic on. I'm going to press enter, turn that on, and again, now go back and do my linear regression. So if I hit second enter a couple times, bring back what I've typed. Again, no other fancy stuff. If I just hit linear regression, it'll also give me that correlation coefficient. And notice R was equal to 0.99. That's a pretty darn good correlation coefficient. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick snapshot of that and bring it back to my main screen, okay, so that I can copy all of that down on here. Now when you write down your linear regression equation, which I always want to remember is we're going to have to round off a little bit, but make sure you give a little bit of decimal. If it didn't come out as a perfectly round number, we're not going to assume that it did. So I'm going to call that y equals, notice my first line there, ax plus b. So a is my slope. That's 209 point, sorry for the handwriting here. My stylus is being a little tricky today. 0.257 x plus my y-intercept, 6733.857. And again, that's how I want to write my linear equation. Hopefully with a little better handwriting, but that's how I want to write it so that it's all described there for me. Now, to do a little bit fancier stuff, if you'd like to see that equation on a graph, or maybe if we want to answer a question like, well, now that I have an equation, what would it be in 2020? What would I predict there? Or basically 50 years down the road, right? At t equals 50, what would I expect that to look like? Again, great handwriting there, I know. Well, let's do a little bit more on the calculator then. Rather than just typing in, right, my linear regression, I'm going to put in a few more details. So I'm going to go to Stat, I'm going to go to Calculate, I'm going to hit Linear Regression. Now, if you don't want your calculator to assume that you used L1 and L2, what I'm going to do is go to second, number 1, comma, second, number 2. And notice I've got L1, comma, L2 on there then. So I'm going to find a linear regression, AX plus B, where L1 is my X list and L2 is my Y list. And again, for those of you that showed that full screen of stuff, it already should have been typed on there for you. It kind of assumes L1 and L2. More importantly, if I want to see a graph of this, what I need to do is retype my equation into my Y equals, my function button. But instead of retyping it myself, I'm going to have my calculator store it there. So again, I'm going to press comma one more time. And what I need to do is have it store as Y1. So I'm going to go to vars, that's right below the arrows, over to Y variables to the right, and we deal with functions, and I'm going to choose Y1. Again, that was vars, yvars, function Y1. Again, if you've got that list of stuff on your screen, under the Store RegEQ button, under that Store RegEQ command, that's where you want to put Y1. And again, get there the same way, vars, yvars, function Y1. Now when I press enter, I've got all of this on my screen again, looks just the same. But when I go to Y equals here, that function button, it's already pre-saved for me right here in Y1. So if I go to graph, I should be able to see that line. Now the one downside is my graph is probably not set up for that large a slope and that larger y-intercept right now. So I could either kind of play around with the window and kind of set up my own window, or if I'd like to see the plot, again, I can go to plot 1, turn that on, and then go to zoom stat. If I'm turning on the plot, I'm turning on statistics. And if I zoom into those statistics, number 9, zoom stat, it should have a screen zoomed into my points with that nice line drawn right there for me. So that's kind of a nice helpful hint. The other nice part is, since I have that stored as Y1, I can also use the table now. Not only is it going to graph that line for me, I could go to my table and I can find out, according to my line, Y1, what I would predict for any given year. So again, if I want to be in year 50, I'm going to go to table setup quick. I'm going to type in 50. I'm going to go back to that table, and in year 50, I now would predict 17,197. And really, if you want to be even more precise, I can highlight that and notice at the bottom there were some decimals. So 17,196.7. So 17,196.7 would be my approximate number of stations, right, that I would predict. I'm going to try to use the stylus again here. Try to label that. Yeah, it doesn't want to write. Stations. Well, make sure you label your answers. Hopefully, again, more readable than I am. but stations for a final answer there. Okay? Again, doing that Y1 button allows you not only to use the graph, but to also use the table. So it's much more usable. That should be enough to help you find linear regression lines. Hope that helps you out. Again, if you have any questions, make sure you talk to your teacher. The last screen I'll put up here, again, is just all those commands. A few extra helpful hints, like if your plot's not working quite right, press second Y equals, second function button, and you'll be able to kind of play around with that plot 1. Make sure your settings are all good there. But again, if you need help, I would say pause the screen, record the commands, and you should be able to go find a linear regression. Good luck, have a great day, and happy math.